Hi everybody. Chris, if you're watching, shoot me a quick text. Let me know how the sound is. I don't want to have a repeat of last time where nobody could hear what I was saying. Hopefully everyone's having a great evening, or if you're on the West Coast, afternoon. Be sure to invite all your friends, IDPA shooters, to join in. We're going to be covering reloads tonight, so hopefully there'll be some tips and tricks that will make that a faster, smoother process for you. Good evening, everybody. Hey, somebody shoot me a quick text. Let me know if the sound is okay on there. Good evening. Okay, sound is good. All right, like I said, good evening. Welcome back, IDPA's Facebook Live. My name is Eric Fuson, Distinguished Master, part of the Wilson Combat Shooting Team, Sales Director for Cool Fire Trainer. We're going to be talking about reloads tonight in this episode because we had several requests during the last Facebook Live event that wanted to know more about reloads, types of reloads, and that type of stuff. So we're going to get into the fundamentals. It's a difficult thing to teach over the internet or on video, but we're going to try to get as in-depth as we can about how to make this reload as fast and efficient as possible. Cover the different types of reloads. We want to cover the emergency reload at slide lock, which is going to be probably the most common IDPA reload. Tactical reloads and reloads with retention. When can you use them, and what's the advantages and disadvantages of each? The other thing that we're going to talk about is reloading on the move with the IDPA rules that allow you to perform a legal reload in between points of cover if you're not exposed to unengaged targets. You see a lot more reloading while moving in the sport now, and there's right and wrong ways to do that. So we're going to give everybody just a few minutes to jump on and watch. I want to try to cover as much detail of the reload as that I can. While we're waiting for people to jump on, I want to remind everybody, anytime you're going to dry fire practice, you want to remove all ammunition from the scenario. Make sure that you double and triple check your magazines and your firearm to make sure that you have no live ammunition when you're going to dry fire practice. As you can see tonight, I've got my same Cool Fire Trainer barrel installed, and if I lock that to the rear and try to get a camera angle where you can see in there, maybe not. Here we go. You can see that there's no chamber on the Cool Fire Trainer barrel. So there's no way to introduce a live cartridge into a dry fire training scenario if you've got that system installed in your gun. That's just one more benefit of the Cool Fire Trainer when it comes to dry fire practice at home, is that you can dry fire practice and know that the possibility of having a negligent discharge is taken away. And even if by accident a live cartridge was somehow introduced into the training, all it would do is introduce a malfunction and not a negligent discharge. So, all right, let's get right into magazine changes. Cool Fire Equip Wilson Combat SIG P320. I really like the Wilson Combat grip for these P320s because with my short thumbs, it makes it easier to reach the magazine release button. They have a slimmer grip. They also have that relief cut on the side right there. Makes it a whole lot easier for me to reach the magazine release button versus a standard P320 platform. So we're going to talk about the most common reload in IDPA, which is an emergency or a slide lock reload. Your slide is already locked to the rear, and you're going to be doing a reload, whether that's flat-footed standing at a point of cover or whether that's going to be while moving to a point of cover. The actual steps, each process is the same. You just may pick a different point in time to start or end that reload depending on whether you're moving or not. So step number one to perform a reload is you have to remove the magazine from the gun. How you do that is you just simply press the magazine release button. There's all different kinds of magazine release buttons. Ambidextrous people, sometimes left-handed shooters, they've got them on the other side of the gun. Some H&Ks have paddle magazine releases, and you have to decide whether a middle finger or a thumb is the best way to get those. Every firearm that I have has got a right-handed thumb magazine release because I want the steps of the reload to remain the same no matter what handgun platform I'm shooting. If I'm shooting my SIG 320, if I'm going to shoot my Beretta at another match, a 1911 at a match after that, if I'm trying to decide which division I'm going to shoot for the season, or just to familiarize myself with my equipment at club level matches, I want the actual fundamentals of that reload to stay the same. So once you have a magazine change that works for you, stick with whatever platform that is to make sure that you repeat the same process every time. Now to drop the magazine, you push the magazine release button. Some people, 1911 shooters, if you press the magazine release button in and hold it, it can prevent your magazine from dropping free. So I like to push the magazine release button and then re-grip the gun with my thumb high so that I don't ride the magazine release button, and that will allow certain types of guns magazines to drop free easier. All right, this step needs to be done from a shooting position with the magazine well vertical. To get the magazine out of the gun, gravity is your friend. That's going to help get the magazine clear of your gun. So when you push the button, you don't need to turn the gun into a magazine change position and push the button because you wind up with one of these. You wind up with magazines that won't drop free because gravity is not on your side. So step number one, you're going to push the button. Now, as you're pushing the button with the magazine facing the ground, your support hand is going to be coming to find your next source of ammunition, which is going to be your magazine and your magazine pouch. Little tip, full magazines go in magazine pouches, partially full magazines go in pockets. I'm sure we've all seen people that thought they had reloaded their magazine whenever they were at a match. They did a magazine change, they shot 1 or 2 or 3 shots and the gun locked open because they had not reloaded the magazine. So remember, when you're done with your stage and you're picking up all your stuff, your partially loaded magazines, put them in your pocket, not in your magazine pouch. That way you avoid having partially loaded magazines in your magazine pouch instead of fully loaded to division capacity magazines in your magazine pouch. So that's just one of those mental tips of getting things correct so that something doesn't go wrong in the stage itself. So as I'm pushing, I'm trying to get to where you can see the gun here. As I'm pushing the magazine release button, my support hand is going to my magazine on my belt. Now what I like to do, instead of trying to find the magazine itself, I like to just follow the contour of my body with my thumb and let the palm of my hand find the base pad on the magazine. So when I find the base pad on the magazine, I'm going to wrap my hands and fingers around that magazine, but I'm going to keep my index finger right at the very front of the magazine. It's called indexing the magazine. You want to get an index on that magazine so that your index finger is basically touching the tip of the cartridge in the magazine when you go to do your magazine change. And why is that important? Well, if you all would close your eyes and touch your nose, you know, the old feel sobriety thing. Your brain knows where every part of your body is at all times. You can close your eyes and touch your nose. If you didn't have this sense called proprioception, so your brain knows where your body parts are, you couldn't walk, you couldn't drive a vehicle, you couldn't do any of those things. This is a sense we've been using since before we were toddlers, and it just gets better and better as we get older. It's one of the few things that happens. So it knows, your brain knows where the tip of your finger is when you index that magazine. When I have my handgun, you'll notice the pinky on my dominant hand comes right up to the bottom of the magazine well of the gun. If I can touch my pinky with my index finger of my magazine, it's going to align my magazine with the magazine well on the handgun kind of naturally. Now you can actually learn to do this just simply by the sense of feeling the index finger to the pinky to find it in. Now, by feel is great, but you want to look at what you're trying to hit. Same as with shooting a target. You have to look at the target, the bullet hole in the target, the top center portion of the front sight, and watch that front sight lift. Your eyes are going to drive your accuracy. You also want to use that when you're reloading the gun. So when I push the button and I re-grip the gun with my thumb high, my support hand is coming back to my magazine that's in my magazine pouch, and I'm indexing the magazine. Now I want to keep the gun up somewhere in front of my face. People that drop the magazine and the gun all the way down low to where they no longer have a straight sight at the target that they're trying to engage next, you literally slow yourself down, because now you have to insert a magazine, find a target, bring the gun all the way back up to your line of sight, realign your sight picture, prep your trigger, get ready for all that. So I want you to get used to, when you push the magazine release button and you regrip the gun, all I want you to do is just simply turn the gun about as much as it would take to be able to look through the trigger guard at your target. So if the camera was basically my target area and I push the button and I regrip the gun, here you're going to be able to see that I can see through that trigger guard into whatever my next target's going to be. That's happening while I'm going for the next magazine. So steps again. Step number 1, push the button. Step number 2 is grip the gun with your thumb out of the way. If you push the button and you keep that thumb down there on the magazine release button, when you go to do your reload, you're not going to be able to grip the gun properly, because you're going to have your thumb in the way. That's going to defeat the ability to get a nice two-handed grip on that gun. So step number 1, depress the magazine release button, releasing the mag. Step number 2, you want to re-grip the gun in a method that will allow you to get a two-handed shooting grip. So you're going to flag the thumb as soon as the magazine release has been pressed and the magazine is coming free. While that's going, you're reaching for the next magazine. After you get the magazine and you've got it indexed out of your magazine pouch, you're going to turn the gun so that you can see the magazine well in 3D. And I want you to actually look at the magazine well until you've got your magazine partially inserted. Now once your magazine is partially inserted, then you can get your focal shift back to the target and start picking out the spot that you're going to shoot on that target. By the steps again. Release the magazine by pushing the button. Regrip the gun with the thumb high. Look at your magazine well. Now after you get here, the gun should still be at a fairly good distance away from your face. You don't want to bring it up too close, because that's just that much further you're going to have to present the pistol after the magazine change in order to be able to make that shot. So all you're going to do is basically point your elbow down. When you point your elbow down, that's going to orient the gun where you can see the magazine well in 3D. Seeing the magazine well in 3D is extremely important to be able to figure out where the outside lip is so that you can get the magazine inserted. After here, you're going to seat the magazine. Seating the magazine just means you're going to roll your fingers out of the way, and you're going to use the base of your palm to seat the magazine firmly. One stroke through, and with your palm open and with your thumb flagged, all you have to do then is just roll the gun into a two-handed grip. Once again. And I'm going to be picking up mags a lot here in a little bit, so I apologize. All right, you're going to push the button, grip the gun with your thumb high. Look, seat. Then you're going to move that magazine into your two-handed grip by just sliding it into a two-handed shooting position here. So from seat, it's right back there. Notice your thumb is forward. This thumb is going to remain flagged so that it can stay on top of the gun, just like this right here in that two-handed shooting position. Set it up again. All right. Push the button, grip the gun thumb high. Look, seat. Flip the gun over into your two-handed position. Now all you've got to do is realign your sights, prep your trigger for the shot. All right? That is the basic fundamental steps of reloading the gun without putting the gun back in the battery after an emergency reload. All right? Now that we've got released the magazine, grip the gun with your thumb high, look the magazine into the magazine well, seat the magazine with your palm one hit all the way through. If you seat it and come back and tap it again because you're hoping that that slide will drop free. Some guns will do it, some guns won't. Some guns do it some of the time. I'm looking for a consistent reload that's going to be the same every time. So if your slide is locked to the rear, like so, and you're going to be doing an emergency reload, the steps are exactly the same. You're going to release the magazine and re-grip the gun. You're going to look at the magazine well. You're going to seat the magazine. Now, at this point in time, you have multiple options about how to get the slide back in the battery. I'm going to give you the options because everybody's gun is different. Everybody's hand size is different. All these are things that come into play depending on your particular gun, your particular shooting style, and your particular hand size. Option number one, and the fastest option, if you can reach it, is your dominant hand thumb. Notice on this P320 that even with my little short thumbs, I can reach up here and I can put my thumb directly on the slide stop lever. Now, if this is your option, if you have the ability to put your right hand thumb on the slide stop lever, then after you push the button and re-grip the gun, you want to rest your thumb directly on that slide stop lever. Because when I look the magazine in and I seat it, the upward momentum of seating the magazine will engage the slide stop lever, closing the slide, chambering around, and completing the reload. Now, let me reset this again. If you physically think of pushing the slide stop lever down when you reload, if you physically think about it, oftentimes you will wind up dropping the slide before you seat the magazine, and then you're going to wind up not getting another cartridge in the chamber. That's why I recommend, if you're going to use the right thumb method, is that when you push the button, you put your thumb there, you let the upward momentum of seating the magazine drop the slide for you. If the upward motion of seating the magazine drops the slide for you, you're never going to miss that top cartridge in the magazine. You're going to pick it up every time. And when you line up the sights and press the trigger, you're going to get a bang instead of a click. When you're in a match and you're doing a reload, the last thing you want to hear after that reload is a click. So step number one, right thumb. Option number one for dropping the slide on an emergency or a slide lock reload. Insert, drop, two-handed shooting position, ready to shoot. Now, when I shoot a 1911 or Beretta, my right thumb will not reach the slide lock lever, the slide release lever. It just won't do it. So I have to use my left thumb. When the steps are, release the magazine, re-grip the gun, I'm going to look, seat, and then as I flip the gun over into my two-handed position, I'm going to press down with my left thumb, releasing the slide, and then build my grip and continue to shoot. All right, let me look here. How far in front of you are you keeping the gun? Good question. Most people bring the gun back way too far. Most people bring the gun back here because we're most dexterous in our center. I mean, if you think about threading the needle or eating or any of those things, we do it close and we do it in our center. So that's a natural desire with the pistol, is to bring it all the way up here to your face so that you can see it, and it's a very dexterous place to be. But then you've got all the time it takes to realign your grip and then present the weapon out for an accurate shot. So what I like to do from a two-handed shooting position, once I've released the magazine, is take my elbow from a pointing outward position to a pointing downward position. Now my elbow is facing straight down. Notice that my forearm is not excessively bent, it's still fairly straight. But if I can see the magazine well in 3D, and if I can see through the trigger guard, and my target is generally through the trigger guard from where I'm reloading, then I know that as soon as I see the magazine and I flip that gun into a two-handed grip, I'm already going to be at extension, and I'm already going to be trying to prep that shot. So only bring the firearm back far enough to be able to see the magazine well in 3D. All right. Somebody asking, what belt are you wearing? This is a 511 standard 1 3. No, I'm sorry. This is a 1.5 inch belt. I don't recommend the 1 3/4, not because they don't work well. They do. There's just a ton of holsters and magazine accessories that aren't compatible with 1 3/4 inch belts. A lot of belt loops even aren't compatible. So this is just an 1.5 inch 511 belt, and it is the one with the metal buckle. They're a lot more rigid than the lesser expensive ones. So what you're looking for is something that will fit your magazine pouch and your holster very, very well. That doesn't roll very easily when you twist it. So that's what I'm doing. Got another question: how often do you train reloads? And the answer to that question is every time you practice, whether it's dry fire or live fire, you're going to practice reloads. I've got a lot of people out there that aren't specifically practicing reloads, but they're going to shoot their gun to slide lock when they're practicing, whether it's live fire, whether it's dry fire. They're going to shoot this gun to slide lock, and then they're going to go, I'm just going to go ahead and put that in my pocket, get another magazine out, insert it. Okay, you miss the opportunity to train a reload every time you do that. So if you're shooting live fire or if you're shooting dry fire, and one of the advantages of the Cool Fire Trainer, folks, and I can't state this enough, is that if you put an empty magazine in a Cool Fire equipped gun and pull the trigger, it locks to the rear just like you're shooting ammunition. So if you want to practice emergency reloads, you can actually practice the draw to first shot, an emergency reload slide lock, and then a reload with a magazine that has these inserts that prevent the slide from locking to the rear, and continue practicing after the reload just the way you would if you were practicing a slide lock reload on the range with live ammunition. If you're going to be practicing an emergency reload without the Cool Fire, you just want to start with an empty magazine installed, the slide lock to the rear, and you're going to be pressing the dead trigger to simulate that shot before you start your reload process. So either way you can practice the emergency reload. It just makes it a lot more realistic and a lot more, action's always faster than reaction, so you want to try to make sure that you're acting. And with that slide locking open on the shot, it's just going to make everything seem like it's that much more like what you would do when you're firing live ammunition in a match. Check questions real quick one more time. Do I train with my vest on? Absolutely. And we're going to get into that too. Touch on reload on the move. We're going to get to that. Absolutely. What's a good holster for a beginner? There are a lot of great IDPA legal holsters out there from companies like Blade Tech and CompTac, and I mean, I can't go through all the different ones out there. But what you're looking for is a gun holster that will fit you or adjust to fit you to where you have the right amount of gap between the gun and your body, so that you're within IDPA legal rules that covers the correct amount of the firearm to be legal for IDPA rules, and that it will allow you to get your thumb around the gun easily and allow you to draw the gun straight up so it doesn't cant in, and obviously it can't cant out to be legal. Kydex for me is the fastest. I've shot a lot of really good leather holsters. I still use a leather holster for concealed carry. Kydex just seems to more consistently release the gun when you're trying to draw fast. So when you're looking at equipment, how it fits on your body and how well the gun clears whatever pinch retention device you have is extremely important. Here we go. All right, we've covered right thumb and left thumb for ways to drop the slide on an emergency or slide lock reload in a match. So step number 1, and the fastest if you can reach it, is right thumb. Option number 2, which is next in the speed, is left thumb. That's going to allow you to still incorporate that two-handed grip as you drop the slide. Number 3 is what I call over the top. So if I push the button and I regrip the gun with my thumb and I insert the magazine, all I'm going to do is I'm going to roll the gun over to my hand, and I'm going to grab it between my palm and my forefingers, just like this right here. That way I can actually pull back and let go. You do this with a magazine that's got an insert on it. So when I insert the magazine, I just roll it over right here, pull back, let go, build my two-handed grip, come up and get ready for that next shot. So step number 1, right thumb. Step number 2, left thumb. That's option number 2. Option number 3, over the top. Over the top again is insert, come right over the top, pull back. Notice when I come over the top, I'm not slingshotting the gun way out here in front of me and then racing to catch up with my support hand. What I'm doing at this point in time, when I seat the magazine, I'm just rolling it to my center, pulling it back enough to get the slide to drop home, rebuilding the two-handed grip, and then coming up ready for that next shot. So right thumb, option number 1. Left thumb, option number 2. Over the top, that's the third option. The fourth option that I like is a roll to center and what I call the pinch technique. So we're going to grip the gun between the thumb and the forefinger, and we're just going to pull back, let go, rebuild that two-handed grip. That's going to get that next round out of the magazine into the chamber and make you ready to shoot. If you haven't developed a reload that you're 100% comfortable with, or you're looking for a reload that you think will increase your shot-to-shot time split, then try all of them. Find out which one is the most consistent reload for you. And just like a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about, draws and that kind of stuff, fast and fluid motion, reloads are done in 3 speeds: fast, slow, fast. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. Let me set this back up again. Lock the slide to the rear. All right. When I do this reload, releasing the magazine and getting the next magazine out of my magazine pouch happens extremely fast. Very fast, very fluid. I'm going to push the button, and I'm going to go for that magazine as quick as I can. So the slow part comes in when you get the magazine up to the magazine well. You're going to have to pause just slightly to make sure the alignment is correct, because I can't count the number of times that I skipped that slow part and threw a magazine completely over the gun. Yeah, it's not good for your score. So you're going to slow down just slightly until that magazine becomes inserted just maybe a quarter to a half an inch in the magazine well. And then when your focal shift goes back to your target, then you're going to go fast again. So fast, slow, fast. All right. So when you're doing this at home and you're thinking yourself through the steps, the conscious brain can only think of one thing at a time. So you have to break down each one of these steps in a method in which you will remember. Step number 1, push the button. That's dropping the mag. Step number 2, you're going to grip the gun with your thumb high. Step number 3, you're going to look the magazine into the magazine well. Step number 4, you're going to seat the magazine. Step number 5, you're going to flip the gun. Now, seating the magazine, you can either drop the slide with your right thumb, drop the slide with your left thumb, over the top, pincher, whatever. But once you've done that, you're going to flip the gun over into your two-handed shooting position. You're going to prep the trigger for the next shot. You're going to find your sights, line them up, make that accurate shot after the reload. Those are the steps for the slide lock reload. Let me check to see if we have any questions about what I'm covering here. Okay. What is the ratio of your training cool fire versus live fire? Let's talk about normal times, all right? Normal times, 2019, not the best year for me because I actually shot less than 500 rounds in 2019 of live fire in practice because I was proving a point about cool fire. I went to the World Championship 2019 having shot less than 500 rounds of practice, and was able to come out in the top 3% of the World Championship, all divisions combined, having solely practiced with the cool fire system throughout the course of the year. But let's go previous to that. Dry fire is 5 times as easy to do as live fire. So I probably spend about 5 times as much dry firing as I do live firing. Add to the fact of that ammunition is 70 plus cents a round if you can find it for 9mm. It's going to probably go a lot more. If I have, after say 3 or 4 years before this ammunition crisis, after 3 or 4 years, my gun's going to have 70 to 80,000 rounds through it, I would guess, of live fire between matches and practice. If I've got 70 to 80,000 live fire cycles through my gun, I would probably have in excess of 300 to 400,000 dry fire cycles through the gun. It's the most cost efficient way to practice. You don't have to go to the range, because here's what happens when you go to the range. You load up your target stands, your ammunition, your guns, all the stuff that you're going to do. You put it in your vehicle, you drive to the range. Unless you're one of those fortunate people that have a range in your backyard, then I'm envious. But if not, you drive to the range, set up your targets, set up your scenarios. You shoot your targets, you tape your targets, you pick up your brass, you load everything back up in the truck, you drive back to the house, you unload everything, put it in your garage, come in, clean your gun, oil it, put it away. That means you're talking about an average time drop here, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, somewhere in the neighborhood. That was about an average practice session for me after work. With this cool fire system, I can come home. I can put on my belt, my holster, my magazines. I can spend 15 or 20 minutes before dinner or after dinner practicing draws, reloads, target transitions, a little bit of getting in and out of shooting positions, those types of basic fundamental marksmanship things that you need to practice every time you pick up your gun. And I can get 300 or 400 repetitions of very good, solid practice in 20 minutes. And instead of it costing me 300 rounds of ammunition, it cost me about, 30 cents worth of CO2. So this year with the pandemic and the ammunition prices and all that stuff, I'd say my ratio of dry fire to cool fire is going to be pretty significantly skewed to dry fire. Tactical conference, John. Are we going?
I'm not.
I'll have to get back to you on that question. I'm not sure about that. Let me check with. Do you take your cool fire to dry fire at night before a match you travel to? I absolutely do. I absolutely do. It's quiet enough that you can shoot it in a hotel room and not freak out the world. And if somebody hears something, it's going to sound like anything except for playing with a gun. So I've never had anybody come and knock on my door at a hotel going, "What the hell are you doing in there?" It's really a fairly muffled noise. I mean, you can tell when I shoot. It definitely sounds like something, but it doesn't sound like anything that you would do with a firearm. So. Can I demonstrate how quick you reloaded a match? Yeah, sure. Reloads at a match are kind of like draws. You should do them at the exact same speed no matter how close or far your next target is away. Now, your shot-to-shot time will vary based on 2 things. How far away is the target, and is there any type of hard cover or some kind of a no-shoot or something that would make you have to spend more time on your sights and trigger to make that accurate shot. The actual reload itself is exactly the same. And people ask, well, what's a good reload? What's a good reload? A good reload is something that you can do consistently and guarantee a good accurate shot afterwards. That's as efficient as you can be for you. I do not try to be the fastest person on the reload at any match. But if I'm going to reload at match speed, what I'm going to do is as I'm pushing the button and releasing the magazine, going for the next magazine, I am preparing myself mentally for the shot, because as soon as the magazine starts to get in, I'm already thinking about lining up my sights and prepping the trigger. So a match speed reload for me looks kind of like this. Somewhere in that neighborhood. a little bobble there. Let's try it again. Didn't lock open. Let me regas up. One more time. One last time. That would be an intermediate range target, 5-7 yards, something like that. A flash sight picture is all I need. Now, if that target all of a sudden is a 25-yard target, that reload is going to look the same speed, but you're going to notice there's a difference of time between after the reload is completed and the shot. So I'm going to shoot. So where the time frame difference from shot to shot is there actually comes from how much time I'm spending on the sights and the trigger after the reload is performed. All right, concealment garment. If either of you all were watching, you would have seen last time the whole 4-finger technique that I use for the draw. I kind of do the same thing when I'm reloading from concealment. When the gun's up, I basically use my 4 fingers to get that out of the way, and then I trace my body with my palm and my thumb to find the magazine in the magazine pouch. So that magazine change looks just like that right there. All right, one more time, and I'm going to do it nice and slow so you see what my support hand is doing. It's just a matter of clearing that concealment garment in a consistent way so that you can use your support hand to trace your body all the way around till you find the next magazine. That's the other good thing about using your support hand. I'm going to take the vest off. That's a good thing about using your support hand to find the next magazine by running around your body, is that once one's gone, it's the exact same process to find the next one. So if you're trying to find a specific magazine, and you've already used it, and you try to find the magazine in the same method, it's a whole different process as far as where your hands are reaching, whereas if you just track your body, you'll find that magazine because your palm's going to run into it. Okay. Somebody said do a reload at full speed. I kind of did. All right. Now let's talk about reloading on the move. Reloading on the move needs to happen in the first step and a half or in the last step and a half of what you're going to do. Too many times, people find themselves at slide lock and they start moving. They drop their magazine and they start moving, and they start trying to fiddle with that magazine to get it in there because now their gun's bumping up and down, and now their hand's bumping up and down, and they're having a hard time getting the magazine to find the magazine well. Well, if you're running, it's naturally going to be harder. You're trying to hit a moving target. What's easier to hit? A 5-yard target standing still or a 5-yard swinger that's moving really, really fast? Well, always the stationary target's your easier target. It's the same way with a magazine change. So, if I'm going to do a magazine change on the move, I want to hit that magazine change in the first step. That way, as soon as I get the magazine in, I can concentrate on moving faster and more efficiently to the next point of cover. If I bobble that magazine change, then what I do is I carry the other magazine all the way with me, and about 1.5 steps before I get to where I'm at, when I slow down, I go ahead and seat that magazine, drop the slide, and I'm in ready to shoot. When you're running, you need to be running. If you've got a position of cover that's going to give you that long opportunity to actually gain some speed between point A and point B, then you should cover that as quickly as possible. and it's going to be a lot easier to cover that ground if the gun's either already loaded or you're going to wait till you get where you're going to finalize it. Now, not all the way to where you're going. Not in position, ready to fire a shot, then start your reload, because that's the same as a flat-footed reload. But in the last couple of steps, as you're slowing down, once you're no longer moving as much, finalize the reload, then you're ready to go. All right. Tactical reloads and reloads with retention. We're going to cover this real quick. There's no rule in IDPA now that says you have to do it. You can mandate a tactical reload or a reload with retention anymore. But there are plenty of times and stages where it will benefit you to do so. There is a difference between a tactical reload and a reload with retention. We're going to cover the tactical reload first. Both of these are done with a slide forward and an undetermined number of rounds left in the gun. Step number one, tactical reload. A tactical reload happens by going to the magazine first. Once you get the magazine up to the gun, you're going to slide your index finger over into a little pincher grip, and you're going to catch the magazine that was in the gun, rotate the hand over, reinsert the magazine, stow, and then you've topped off and you're ready for another shot. So a tactical reload is done at the gun. Just like that. A reload with retention is done in two parts. A reload with retention, you're going to remove your magazine, stow it, pick up another magazine, insert it into the gun, and top off. What would be the most appropriate time for one of these two reloads? If I'm locked into a shooting position because of cover restrictions or whatever, and I'm going to do a tack reload or reload with retention, I always do the tack load because I can stow while I'm moving. It's faster for me to stow that magazine while I'm moving in between points of cover than it is to stow it while I'm flat-footed at a particular shooting position. If I am stuck at a particular shooting position, or I've got a long point of movement between shooting position 1 and shooting position 2, then I do a reload with retention, because now you're already defeating the cover garment to stow, and on your way back, all you have to do is pick up that magazine after you've stowed the magazine, the fresh magazine. Now, where do you put your partially expended magazine? I see people fish around for vest pockets, shirt pockets, slide them in the waistband. You'll find what's fastest for you. I like something that doesn't change because I want to repeat the process over and over. So whether I do a tack reload or a reload with retention, the stow mag always goes to my pocket. It's less likely to move, so it's going to be in the same place every time, unlike a vest pocket that could be at different positions. It's where I always go when I'm going to reach up, reload magazines, pick up magazines, because like I said earlier, loaded magazines go in pouches, partially loaded magazines go in pockets. So find the place that's going to be the most consistent for you to be able to get the magazine out of the gun into wherever you're going to stow it, and do that every time until it becomes consistent. All right, one last group of questions. Can you demo a tack reload? Just did. All right. Folks, thank you very much for being here. I tried to cover as much information about a reload as I could between moving, tack, reload, all that stuff. I appreciate you watching. Share it with anybody that you think this might help. And match directors, listen, I'm trying to put together a match, my match schedule for 2021. I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook. It's my name, Eric Fuson. Let me know about your match. I want to sit down and figure out where I'm going to shoot. And if you have people at your club that would be interested in having a day or two class before or after an IDPA match, let me know. I'm happy to put on something that would work very well for your club and your group of shooters, and we can tailor that training towards whatever skill set that they want to do, competition, self-defense, it doesn't matter. So look me up, let me know. I want to know about your match. I want to try to get my matches planned up. I hope to see a bunch of you all in 2021 to make up for all the matches that we didn't shoot in 2020. So thank you guys. Have a great evening, and we will see you again. Have a good night.